If my voice were louder, if my body stronger, I would run through the streets, crying peace, peace, peace. Yada-da-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da-da, 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 If my voice were louder, if my body stronger, I would run through the streets, crying peace, peace, peace. L'Adonai haaretz umlo ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, לאדוני הארץ ומלואה ומלואה, לאדוני הארץ ומלואה ומלואה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, לאדוני הארץ ומלואה ומלואה, לאדוני הארץ ומלואה ומלואה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה, תבן ויושביה. ואני אשיר עוזך, וארנן בבוקר חסדך, כי היית משגב לי ומנוס ביום צר לי. ואני אשיר עוזך, וארנן בבוקר חסדך, כי היית משגב לי ומנוס.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to all who are here in our sanctuary, which we're elated to have with us, and all of you back home in your various places, able to pray and participate via the live stream as well. We are so glad to be together. to be able to pray, to celebrate, to honor Shabbat, a day of rest, and to continue this wonderful tradition of an amazing family with amazing bat mitzvah, who is going to teach us this morning and guide us and really show her elevation to being an adult member of a burgeoning adult member of our community. And we're so honored by that. And it's good to be together. I know we are still struggling on this journey. We're all in Mass, of course. Things are challenging. But this moment, this opportunity is a chance for us to affirm that together, with prayer, with community, with love, we still are going to celebrate. We still are going to find ways to honor these amazing moments and learn from the next generation, which is part of what a bat mitzvah is all about. So we begin our prayer service together in the smaller red books. Those that are following online, you should have a link next to the live stream you can click on for the prayer book of the morning. On page 103, we rise together for the morning blessings of gratitude called the Birchot HaShachar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sachvi bina להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בצלמו.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בת חורים.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם פוקח עברים.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש ערומים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זוקף גבובים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רוקע הארץ על המים.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המכין מצעדי גבר.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה לי כל צורכי.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזי ישראל בגבורה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן יהב כוח.
אמן.
122
ברוך
שאמר היה עולם ברוך הוא ברוך עושה בראשית ברוך עושה ברוך המלך העולם ברוך אמרנו מלכנו אלוהינו חיד חלם ממלך
יחיד חלמים מלך משובח ומפורט יד שמו הגדול ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל ותשבחו.
Amen. You may be seated.
So Shabbat Shalom, friends. As Rabbi Eric said, it's good to be together. I want to offer a kavanah, an intention, as we prepare to warm up our voices, our hearts, to really land in our chairs, wherever you're sitting right now. This week's Torah portion is Ki Tetzeh, and it includes many, many mitzvot, many laws and commandments. Our bat mitzvah will speak to that in a little bit. One of the mitzvot that is discussed, and Rabbi Eric talked about this a little bit yesterday on his Facebook, Instagram, Morning Torah, is the mitzvah of Hashavat Avedah, which is essentially returning a lost object. So it will come as no surprise, just being human, that it is actually an ethical, moral responsibility that when you find something that has clearly been lost, to do your best to see if there's a way that you can return it to its owner. And Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav has a beautiful understanding of this. He, instead of looking at it just as a physical thing that happens out in the world in between people, he talks about it as something that happens on the inside. That there is an understanding in Judaism based on a midrash that before we're born, as we're in the womb, we learn the entire Torah, everything we need to know in life It's all there. And in the process of coming out into the world, we forget. And some of that is missing. And so we go through our lives just refinding, remembering what has always been inside but somehow felt like a missing piece. And as we move through this month of Elul, preparing for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we may also begin to notice things that we've lost over the course of the year, things we have forgotten. And so this idea of returning a lost object is not only returning things to people, objects that belong to other people. It's also about each one of us becoming aware of our own missing pieces and knowing that they are actually a part of our wholeness, so that all we really need to do is kind of restore them to their root, rather than having it be something that is somehow disconnected to us. And our tefillah, our prayer, can be a place where we have the spaciousness to reflect on those missing pieces, to notice what's gotten lost along the way. So if you find yourself wandering outside of our formal prayer together or in a moment of silence, not really sure what to think about or where to place your attention, maybe it's on noticing what feels missing right now, what those missing pieces might be, and if this time can't be a time in which we attempt to restore them to their original wholeness. So we're going to continue this morning actually with Psalm 27 on page 113. This is a beautiful psalm which traditionally we recite twice every day during this month of Elul as we prepare for the new year. We're going to start a couple lines down in the bold, Achat Sha'alti. The one thing that we ask is that we can sit in peace, remembering that we are actually never separate from the divine, from ourselves, from one another, that all separateness that we sense moment to moment is actually an illusion. Achat sha'alti met Adonai, Achat sha'alti ota avakesh, Achat sha'alti met Adonai, Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Shivti, shivti, beved Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yamei chayai. Shivti, shivti, beved Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yamei chayai. Lachazot benoah Adonai, ulvakeh behevalo. Lachazot benoah Adonai, ulvakeh behevalo. Achat sha'alti met Adonai, Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. We continue with Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, 136. Ashrei Yoshvei
השם שככה לו, השם שלנו, גדול עלינו שבח מסך הדבר, טוב נא לכל ורחמה וכל מעשה ודוחך ומעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל העולם. רובני חוק ובכל השם.
ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה, הללויה. Continue now with Psalm 150, page 141. The very last line of this psalm says, Kol haneshama tehaleliyah. Every soul has its own beautiful words of gratitude, of praise to offer to the Holy One. And as the regulars here know, neshama is also the same letters of the word of nishima, of breath. And so every breath is actually a prayer. Not all of us know all the words of the prayers that we're going to chant this morning, but know that your breath, that breathing with awareness, with gratitude, with presence, is the deepest, deepest form of prayer. Hallelujah, 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 birkiauzo, hallelujah, vigorota, hallelujah, kerogulo, hallelujah, tekashofar, hallelujah, nevevinor, hallelujah, 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 tov mavod, hallelujah, mivilgav, hallelujah, tziltzalei shamam, hallelujah, tziltzalei druah, hol hanshama tehaleliyah, hol hanshama tehaleliyah, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We prepare for Nishmat Kol Chai with a deep breath, Neshima Mukha. Page 145. Nishmat Kol Chai, Tivarech et Shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu.
Bottom 146.
Mid melach
Omi Yisrael, Omi Arogla.
Hagadol Hagibor Venora
Elyon, Shamayim v'haaretz.
Nelelechon Shabechchan Va'erchan Varech את שם
קודשך
קודשך
גמור.
גמור. לדוד
ברכי
ברכי
נשי
לשמי, וחוק רבי את שם קודשו. האל בצעצמת עוזך,
הגדול לכבוד שמך,
הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורותיך, המלך היושב
הגיסרה ונישא,
שוכנה מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב רננו צדיק, באדוני ישרים נבטתי לה, ובישרים תתעלה, ודברי צדיקים תדברה, ובלשון חסידים תרומם, ובקרב גירושים תנגדה. לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, להלל, הוגה לזכות, דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד ונישי, עבדך ידעי משיב. Please rise. 148. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו.
המלך הגדול הקדוש בשמיים ברכות ומתעבר עולם.
ברכות והודות מתעבר עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני
בשמו
המלך הגדול בתשבחות אל הודעות אדון הנפלאות. הבוקר בשירי זמרה נלך העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, תלמד תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ובמימי ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב וימרו אמן. ישמר בגבורה לעולם לא מעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו לעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה לאמירם ביעלמה וימרו Amen.
Page 149, a slight bow for the Baruch.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
You may be seated. 150.
We continue with the first blessing before the Shema, which is a prayer which invites us to be grateful for light in all its forms, and for the light and the darkness and everything in between that emerge from being alive on this planet. Baruch atah
קדוש אדוני, ובסד יצק עבודה וחויון. וטובו מחדש ויום דמי מעשה וישין.
אין כרכך, אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך, מלכנו לחיי עולם הבא. אפס, תודך גאולנו מת המשיח, ואין דמלך מושיענו, לתחיית המתים.
151.
אל אדון הכל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך, תביא כל נשמה. לא מדומה לעולם, דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו. המתגאה על החי עוד הקודש ונדע לעבוד על המרכבה. לרחוד ומישור לפני חיזור, איזה ורחמים לפני כבודו. טובים מאור שברה אלוהינו יצרם בדבר, בבינה ובהשכל כוח ובורא נתן בעליון משה בקרב תבל. הוגים נוגה נעזיבה לכל העולם. הולכים בצדם וסזים ובוהם, עושים ואימה בצום קונם, באר וכבוד נונים לשמות צלב ורינה לזכר מלכותו. קרא לשם וידרחון רב והגיד זורת הלבדה, שבע נונים לו כל צבע אהרון, תיברת וגדולה סרבי יובני להיות הקודש, לאשר שבת מכל המעשים.
152. On the corner of מזמור של שבת ובדות לאדוני. שצא מקרים הגנות הקודם. תפצה מוקינן, שתבק שם מוקינן. Top 153. Amorim, Beorim, Georim, Lam osim be'ima ubirat zogona,
וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ותורה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכי ושבחים ומפאדים, מריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור ונורא הקדוש. לכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, אני משוט זה לזה, רק תשליט יוזרה בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנימה, קדוש העולם כאחד עונים תמרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, ולא כל הארץ גבעתה האופני והיוד הקודש ורעש גדול, לעומת סרבים לעומת המשאבים אומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו ליל ברוך נימות אלך וכיוסך לשבה מלחמות וקדש אני מיום יעשה ואישית כמו הסינגונים אדוני פרשת ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו
מהרה לאורו.
ברוך אתה אדוני
בשמו
יוצר עמנו.
Amen. Page 154, we bring our seat together to bind them as one to prepare for Shema Yisrael. Abba Avtanu Eloheinu Chemla Gdorat Erechot Amirachamanu Merachim Ishma Lemonu Yishma Noshkim V'Shem Kodshecha L'Neim
קרבתנו לשמך קדושה באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
אהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטודפו בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך וישעריך. Continue page 156. והם שמוע תשמות השלוחים לצוותכם. ושעתי עשר חרב תתן ויציל נכון היבשה נאמן. אמת.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וכיסאו נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיים.
157.
שאת אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואמותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו הודנו מצילנו מלם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה ומעולם.
אמת אמת ושום יחמור Middle 158. Amru Adonaim lo le'od. Please rise. Zu Israel, Umma be'ezrat Yisrael, u'v'reinu mecha Yehuda be'Yisrael, go'aleinu Adonai.
Zevaot shemo
Kedol
Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai
So, we now turn to page 159. 159 to 161, we pray together as a congregation. Rest of the Amidah, the standing prayer with our feet together, facing the land of Israel. The rest is done silently. You can follow along in the next several pages, offering the prayers recommended from our tradition. But also take time just to close your eyes and offer prayer in your heart, the chance on Shabbat and the day of rest, to not focus on what's wrong with the world or what's yet to be accomplished, but to be grateful for what is, to take accounting and to recognize and to praise, not to be too critical, but to think about what it is in our life, which is a blessing. So pages 159 to 161 begin the Amidah together, and the rest is done silently.
Adonai zevatai tuivda uviyagidilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול הגיבור הנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים ובונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו ואהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל ומרגל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורי ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לה ולממיד ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני
בשמו
המתים
אמן
קדש
שמך בעולם שמקדישים אותו בשמי ברו כגדול אריה נביאך קדוש 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 אדוני אלוהינו בכל הארץ כבודו אז בקול רעש ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכה ואנחנו לה ואתה תמלוך ותהיות וקרוב בימינו אליו ותשכון תתגדל ותתגדל לתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ונצח נצחים ועינינו תראינה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד להשיח צדקך ימלוך נעלה איך ציון לדור ודור הללויה נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לשבחך ולפיל ושני למפת כי על מלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני הקדוש. Can you silent prayers? Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you were, return to what you were, return to where you were, born and reborn and reborn. Return to who you were, return to what you were, return to where you were, born and reborn and reborn. Page 167, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא תברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון ומחון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה וזמן קריב והימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולם מעלמא יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברבו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמא והימרו, אמן. תתקבץ לטון ובטון לכל ישראל, קדם עוון דבשמי והימרו, אמן. יהי שלום ברבים שמיה, וחיים עלינו וכל ישראל והימרו, אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו Amen.
We now turn to page 168 for Seder Kriyat Torah, the Torah service. We invite our bat mitzvah to come forward to lead us in Ein Kamocha.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך.
מלכותך מלכות עולמים, ומשפטך לכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז למורידים,
אדוני יברך
את עמו בשלום. עמי ודירה לצונך את ציון, תבנה חומות ירושלים, עירך לבדנו. Please rise. Ram v'nisa Adon olamim.
ויהי בנשוא הארון, ויאמר משה,
קומה אדוני ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Responsibly, Bar Mitzvah leads us in Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol, Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol,
Adonenu kadosh shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti,
ונברום שבע יחדיו לך
Adonai הגדולה, הגבורה,
והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ,
כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה, ותעשה לכל ראש.
לך
אדוני הגדולה, הגבורה, התפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה, ימיס נעשה לכל
ראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו
וישתחוו לדם רגליו, קדוש הוא רוממו אדוני אלוהינו,
וישתחוו לאור קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. יאללה יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 יאללה Ya la 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 la, da da da. Ya la 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 la, ya la. Ya la 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 la, ya la. Ya la 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 la. Ya
Ya, ya, ya.
ya la la la.
Ya, 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 ya.
Ya
Ya, 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 ya. Maybe see everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Awesome. All right, Shabbat Shalom. Great to see everyone. We are now going to continue with our Torah service, the Torah reading. You can follow along in the larger red books, hopefully in front of you, called the Chumashim. We're on page 1123, verse 8. The Torah portion, as was mentioned before, is called Kitetsei. We are reading through the whole Torah, as we do every year. We're approaching the new year in our tradition, Rosh Hashanah, which means we're getting towards the last book of the Torah, which is Deuteronomy. And in this Torah portion, we'll hear a lot more from our Bat Mitzvah about. It is chock full of commandments and mitzvot. It has a lot to offer, and each one, it teaches us something about the values we want to have as we are entering the land of Israel, getting ready kind of to enter the promised land. So feel free to follow along, of course. So verse 8, page 1123, and for the first aliyah, we call our esteemed presidential family here. Okay. Vayezor v'gin v'shirasim bo v'nomar amein hakol havu godel leilenu kavod laTorah yamdu Avram Chanan ben Chaim Pinchas v'chava Razel v'chaya Sarah bat Avram v'Sarah l'aliyah rishona Baruch shetan Torah mo'isa b'rishato v'atem advikim Adonai Elohechem hayom.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar bani mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Toratah. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tataev adomi ki ahicha hu. Lo tataev mitri. Ki ger ha'ita ratzo banim asher yivaldu lachem dor shlishi yivo lachem v'kol Adonai ki tetzei machaneh al oivecha v'ni shmarta v'kol davar ra ki yevecha ish asher lo yeh tahor mikre laila vitza al V'yitzcha al michutz lamachaneh lo yavo el toch hamachaneh v'haya lifnot erev irchatz b'mayim uchvo hashemesh yavo el toch hamachaneh.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Guys, beautiful job. Tov, our second aliyah, verse 13, page 1124. Call forward at this time. We call Beverly and Howard to come forward, proud grandparents. Yamdu Belagisha bat Velvu v'chai Rivka v'tzvi Hirsch ben Moshe v'Esther l'aliyah shenit. It's the second aliyah, verse 13, page 1124.
Show us where you're starting. Show your grandpa where you're starting.
Where?
Go on.
Where are we?
There you go. Nice.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. The
V'chus l'machane v'yasata shama chus v'yateh tia lecha al azeinecha v'haya b'shivtecha chutz v'chafarta val shavta v'chisita et seatecha ki Adonai Elohecha nitalech bekerev machanecha Lasilcha v'lateit oyevecha lefanecha v'haya machanecha kadosh v'lo yir'evecha ervat zavar v'shav
Yacharecha shkochech. Beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov, mazel tov, yes, mazel tov. Exactly. Beautiful. Careful. Watch your step. Watch your step. Okay. So, our third aliyah. We continue now on verse 16, page 1124. Yamod David ber ben Chaim Aron Vadavki Laliyah Shlishit. So at this time, before we offer that aliyah, I invite all to please rise. We'll offer a special prayer for healing, for all those in need of healing.
Okay, I know. It's okay. You're doing great.
So as I pause in its prayer, I invite you to offer the names of those you're holding in your heart or in need of healing, those obviously suffering still from COVID-19, external illnesses and challenges in our congregation and the world, and also internal ones as well, one we may not see as easily, but hurt on the heart as well. Mi sheberach avotenu, Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, v'imotenu Rivka Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'rapeh et achonim. Gittel bat shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mirachamim aleihem lachzikam rapotam v'yishlach lehem rafua shlema min hashamayim f'rat hanefesh f'rat haguf v'toch shach cholim v'chazek yedei riskim b'tzachehem Shabbat imizok rufa krova lavo ashtab reglav izman kariv v'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bring blessing and healing to all those we pray for. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being, together with all others who are ill. And may God grant strength to those who tend to them. The Shabbat is a time to refrain from crying out. We hope and pray that healing is at hand, and let us say together.
Amen.
Our third aliyah, verse 16, 11, 24.
Baruch Hu Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai le'olam
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam bo'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim ve'nosan lanu es toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo taskir evet el Adonai, asher yinatzel elecha me'im Adonai. Imcha yeshev b'kirbecha b'makom asher yifar v'achad sharecha bato lo tonenu lo tehiyeh kadesha mibno Yisrael lo yeh kadesh mibne Yisrael lo tavit nanzona umchir kelev beit Adonai Elohecha l'chol neder ki toavat Adonai Elohecha gam shenehem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר נוסן לנו תורס אמס, בחיי עולם נוטה בזוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נושאין התורה.
Amen. Shkoyach, David. Shkoyach. So, if we turn now to our fourth aliyah, verse 20, page 1125, invite Tova and Ella to come forward this time. Tamdu Tova Naftalia bat Simcha v'lei Rivka, ve'Ela Shai bat Yosef Pesach Umor, l'aliyah revi'it. All in the Gardenberg family. Look at this. Sweet.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarah.
Baruch Adonai le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Latashich lachicha neshech kesef neshech ochel neshech kol davar asher ishach unachri tashich lachicha lo tashich laman yivarchecha Adonai Elohecha v'chol mishlach yadecha al haaretz asher ata vashama l'rishta ki tidor neder l'Adonai Elohecha lo chai tacher v'shalmo ki darosh yidrashenu Adonai Elohecha meimach v'haya v'cha chet v'chi techdol midor lo hiya v'cha chet motza shefatecha tishmor v'asita kasher nadarta Adonai Elohecha nidava asher divarta
B'fi.
B'fi.
Shkoyach. Beautifully done. All the Gardenbergs are Shkoyach. All right.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan v'tolchenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Good job, guys. Shkoyach. The other side, please. Beautifully done. Okay. We now turn to the fifth aliyah. We invite David and Jason to come forward. Yamdu Shalom Moshe ben Yitzchak melech u'dvorach chuma. V'shlomo Yisrael ben Yitzchak melech u'dvorach chuma l'aliyah hachamishit. So verse 25, page 1127.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki tavo b'cherem rehecha v'chalta hanavim. Amen. Kenafshecha son'echa el kilyecha lo titein. Ki tavo v'kamat rehecha v'katafta melilot v'yadecha v'chermesh lo tanif al kamat rehecha. Ki kahi shisha ubala behaya im lo timsachen behenav ki matzav hervat avar bechatav la sefer kibritut venatan beyadaha v'shilacha mi beito v'yatzecha mi beito v'halecha v'hayata lehishacher Usneah Shacharon Bechatav la Sefer Kiritut Venatan beyadaha V'shilacha mi beito Chi amut Shacharon Asher lekacha lo lehisha Lo yuchal bala harishon Asher shilacha Lashuv lekachta liot lo lehisha acharei
Adonai, v'lo tachati et haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha
Nahala.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
These guys did a wonderful job. Unfortunately, he brought a non-kosher tie to the beam. It's not appropriate. Pittsburgh Steelers tie. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's allowed. With special permission. All right. Next up, we turn to our 6th Aliyah, verse 5. We invite Uncle Brian to come forward. Yamod Aaron Solomon ben Tzvi Hirsch v'belagisha l'Aliyah Shishit. So verse 5, 11:28.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. כי ייקח איש אישה חדשה, לא יצא בצבא, ולא יעבור עליו לכל דבר, נקי יהיה לביתו שנה אחת, ושימח את אשתו אשר לקח, לא יחבול ריחיים ברכב, כי נפש הוא חובל, כי מצא איש גונב נפש מאחיו מבני ישראל, והתעמר בהו ומכרו, ומת הגנב ההוא, וביערת הארץ מקרבך, הרע מקרבך, הישמר בנגע הצרת, לשמור מאוד ולעשות ככל, אשר יורה אתכם הכהנים הוויים, כאשר ציוויתים, תשמרו לעשות זכור, העת אשר עשה אדוני אלוהיך למרים, בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Good job, Uncle Brian. Beautiful. I'm going to other side, my friend. We're now the 7th Aliyah, verse 10. And we have to invite the proud parents up to the bima, especially Carl and Jennifer. Ta'amod chayrif gabat tzvi hirsh belagisha l'Aliyah shvi'it.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. כי תשב רעך משת מאומה, לא תבוא אל ביתו לעבוד סבתו, בחוץ תעמוד והאיש אשר אתה נושב בו, יוציא אליך את אבותך חוצה, ואם איש עני הוא, לא תשכח אבותו, השב תשיב לו את אבות זקבו, השמש ושחר ושמתו, וברהך ולך תהיה צדקה לפני אדוני
Elohecha. Shikoyach. Beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov. Oh, yefeh. Okay, everyone can now please rise. We'll offer a Chatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה,
אמן.
ויאמר דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, ויחנו בימיך, ובעירו בית ישראל, בגלה, ובזמן גרים ימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולמי הוויה יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו ללמדו ברכתה ושירתה זאת שמחתה ונחמתה תמירה בימיהם ימרו. Amen. May be seated. We now call up our bat mitzvah. Verse 10, page 1129. Tamod, 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 Bachurat, Bat HaMitzvah, Sarah Esther Bat Chai Rivka, Lamaftira Chizki. So verse 10, 1129, our bat mitzvah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Ki tashev re'acha mashat me'uma lo tavo b'ito l'avot avoto. Bachus ta'amod v'ha'ish asher ata noshevo yotzi elecha et avot chachuta v'im ish ani hu lo tishcha b'avoto hashev tashiv lo et avot kivo hashemesh v'shachav v'samato uve'rahecha v'lecha tiyeh tzedakah Lifnei Adonai
Elohecha. Shikoyach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Simita v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'simita. Simita v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'simita. Simita v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'simita. Elanu, 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 olecho Yisrael. Elanu, elanu, olecho Yisrael. Elanu, elanu, olecho Yisrael. Elanu, elanu, olecho Yisrael. Beautiful. Mazal tov. We rise together now to lift and dress the Sefer Torah. We invite Jeff and Moore to come forward. Yamod Yosef Pesach ben Ruven v'Shoshana. Hamagbiat Amod Mor bat Binyamin Rachel Hagolelet. All the way up there. You got it. Bend the knees. Vizot. Turn around. The front. Asher Zamoshe Linei Israel. Pi Adonai Ad Moshe. Shalom, 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 bimroma, yaseh, yaseh, shalom, say shalom. to have the sister, has very important responsibility. Enjoy the Torah carefully. All right, kids, you got it. All right. We now continue what's called the Haftarah, which is a reading from the book of the prophets, the prophet Isaiah in this case, chapter 54, page 1138 in the larger books, your Chumashim. You can follow along. The prophet Isaiah, chapter 54.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim ratza v'divrehem nemarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai hamocher b'torah ufmasher abdo uv'Yisrael amo V'nvi'ei ha'emet v'atzedek.
Amen.
Rani yakara lo yelada pitzchirina mitzachali lo chala ki rabim b'nei shomema mimnei ve'ula amar Adonai harahivi mekan acholech v'riyot mishkanotayich yatu Tachsochi cha'ariki me'taraich v'tedotayich ha'azeki Ki aminu smol tifroti v'zarech goyim yimrash v'arim yeshamot yoshivu Al tira'i ki lo tevoshi v'al tikalami ki lo takbiri Ki voshet alamayich tishkachi v'cherpad aminutayich lo tiskriod Ki v'alayich asayich Adonai sevaot shema v'golech kadosh Yisrael Elohei kol ha'aretz yikarei Ki cha'isha zuva b'atuva ha'turach karach Adonai Ve'eshet ne'urim ki tima'es amar l'chayich Berega katon azaf betich Uvrachamim gedolim akabetzech B'shatzef ketzef histarti fenai Rega mimech Uvechesed olam richamtich Amar golech Adonai Ki mehi Noach zot li Asher nishbati Ne'avor me Noach Od ha'aretz ke nishbati Migzahov alayich umigarbach Ki heharihim yamushu V'hagvaot temutena V'chazdi meitech lo yamush Uvrij lo mi lo tamut Mamarach mech Adonai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sor kol ha'olamim sarich b'chol hadarot Ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh Hamdaver umkayem Shechol devaraha b'mitvat tzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim devarecha V'davarecha midvarecha achor lo yishuv rekam Ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman ata baruch ata Adonai
Oshemo
ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devaraha
Amen.
Rachem al Zion ki hi beit chayinu V'la'aluvat nefesh toshia b'mhera v'yaminu Baruch ata Adonai
Oshemo
v'sameach Zion b'vanecha
Amen.
Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu B'eliachu chanavi avdecha V'malchut beit David meshichecha B'mhera yavo v'yagel libeinu Al kiso lo yeshav zar V'lo yidchalu od acherim etzkavadaho Ki v'shem kodshecha nishbat halo Shelo yichben nero le'olam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai
Oshemo
Magen David
Amen.
Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanbi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lecha v'hod ol tifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umbrachim otach yibrach shimcha b'fi kol hai tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Baruch
Moshe
Kadesh HaShabbat.
Beautiful, Susanna, beautifully done. Awesome. So now she's completed the Torah reading and Haftarah, one of the major pieces, a few other things, but one of the big things is her commentary, her Devar Torah portion and study, which we did together with the family. So smile underneath that mask, okay, enjoying it. I see it there. Okay, let's hear the Devar Torah. Bakasha.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The parsha I read today is called Ki Teitzei. It is one of the shortest parshiot in the Torah, but it has the most commandments, 72 in total. The topic I chose to focus on is a warning against indifference. In school, I was introduced to the concept of indifference by a speech written by Elie Wiesel. But first, I would like to ask, what is indifference, and how does it apply to our daily lives? Lo tuchal lihitalem. From chapter 22, verse 3 in Deuteronomy, this translates as, you must not remain indifferent. It can also be translated literally as, you shall not act as if you are blind. I find this interesting because to remain indifferent means to not care about something or someone. In the Torah, to not remain indifferent means to assist others and take care of any lost possession of another. The Torah is implying that we are obliged to help others even if they are your sworn enemy. The medieval commentator Nachmanides states that, assist others, remember the bond of humanity between you, and forget the hatred. I believe that the reason we are supposed to help others is because as a people, not just a religion or ethnicity, we have the responsibility to do the right thing when others might ignore the problem. The Torah provides examples of how not to remain indifferent. Today, in chapter 23, verse 16, the Torah talks about how if a slave has run away from their owners and needs refuge, you must treat them with respect. You can't just say, nope, I cannot offer you temporary refuge. Goodbye. We have the responsibility to help those in need. Rabbi Harvey Fields interprets that indifference is intolerable, responsible caring is at the heart of Jewish ethics. I remember a time when I wasn't indifferent to what was happening around me or in my life. I was in 5th grade, it was recess, and I was bored. I noticed that a friend of mine was being put into an uncomfortable position by other friends of mine, to a point where she was in pain. Before I knew what I was doing, I stood up and went over to help my friend. I spotted some other students watching and told them to inform the teachers of the situation. Then, knowing that I could damage my relationship with my other friends, I went over and pulled them away from my friend that they were hurting. I yelled at them, expressing my anger and their poor judgment and treatment. What they did was not right. Looking back on what happened, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I now understand the importance of standing up for what I believe in and doing what I think is right. In the moment, I had confidence and determination to step up and protect my friend. If I hadn't acted, my friend could have been hurt a lot more. The thing that I have noticed is that inconvenient things are the intersections for the actions required to avoid indifference. If you are not a little uncomfortable, then you might not be doing the right thing. As we all know, indifference does not stay only in the schoolyard. Though not one person can solve all of the world's problems, indifference is all around the world and occurs on many levels. As I stated earlier, I was first introduced to indifference from Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor who wrote books and speeches. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1986 and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In his speech, The Perils of Indifference, he said that indifference is not a beginning, it is an end, and therefore indifference is always the friend of the enemy, for it benefits the aggressor, never his victim. whose pain is magnified when he or she feels forgotten. And in denying their humanity, we betray our own. Indifference, then, is not only a sin, it is a punishment. Elie Wiesel was, of course, talking about the Holocaust and the many ways that people and leaders could have taken action. It is too large of a task to go over all of the many examples. Many people have addressed this, and many more will continue to do so. I want to focus on the present, as well as the things that haven't happened yet. To truly not be indifferent, the Torah calls on us to apply these lessons in real time. Today, we face issues around the world that require our attention. You don't have to look far or wait long to see the world's imperfections, but our denial for what is happening is what blinds us. Whether it is military conflicts, refugees, immigration, the environment, or our reaction to a global pandemic, there has always been an opportunity to act earlier. Today, we are in many ways consumed by the global pandemic. To date, over 640,000 people have died from COVID-19 in the United States alone. Here at Beth Meyer, we are trying to make a difference. You all sit here wearing masks, and many congregants chose to participate via live stream for their own safety. These examples of not being indifferent, unfortunately, do not spread far enough into the society around us. I have noticed a key factor of indifference is that we are oftentimes reacting to the things that we haven't experienced yet, that we are indifferent until they affect us personally. Oftentimes, we simply deny or put off the challenges or problems we know about but hope not to face. The challenge of fighting indifference is that it calls upon us to take action. Denial, on the other hand, is the defense mechanism that can be used to avoid dealing with these moral dilemmas. Thus, denial becomes indifference. In the future, what will you do next time you are faced with a challenge? Will you choose to deny the situation and later face the consequences? I personally had to face these questions as my family prepared for this bat mitzvah and the celebration after. I realized that simply having my party as I planned would make me indifferent to the dangers of the pandemic and the risks posed by the new Delta variant. Once I realized this, the decision to modify our plans was disappointing, but the health of others must come before myself. Nahama Leibowitz, Zionist, winner of the Israel Prize in 1956, and Torah scholar, states that indifference does not present a world where all people get along with one another or rush to care for one another's property. Instead, it takes into account the grim reality that people do not achieve the desired observance of "you shall not hate others in your heart." She is right. Our world is not perfect. But can't we try to make a difference? To get rid of indifference? To provide a safer life for all the inhabitants of this home that we call Earth? There is indifference all around us. If we can identify indifference, we can work to prevent it. If it is from standing up to a bully at school, or donating to a charity that helps others around the world, even small things can have big impacts. When you face your next dilemma, what will you do? Will you respond with indifference? Or will you embrace the challenge with open arms, even though you do not know what could happen? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Susanna. Kol hakavod. Beautiful job. You can come step on down here. We invite your parents to come on up. And Rabbi Jenny can come as well. You can just stay right there. It's perfect. Beautiful job. Oh, we're so proud of you. We are kfelling, we say. Super kfelling. We're so proud of you. There are so many things here you offer in your amazing teaching in Devar Torah from the Parsha. You cannot be indifferent. And I want to say, you really took it all the way to the promised land. You know, what it means to, Nassim Ali Bai, bring up Elie Wiesel, of course, may rest in peace, the great leader, and what it means really to be engaged in the world, which is so much a part of what your family's about and what you brought from the Torah and brought those so beautifully together. I just want to add a little more piece that you inspired me, Susanna. When I talk to kids about this mitzvah, it's complicated. You shall not be indifferent. In fact, we talked about this. It's like a double negative. So sometimes I say it means you have to care. Now, first of all, that's clear from who you are. Is that it's for all of us, we have to emphasize it, but you understand the mitzvah to care. And to care may seem obvious, like we all should care, but some people say, well, I don't care is very complicated. I don't care. Plus, if I don't care, then I don't have to feel anything. If I don't care, I'm not vulnerable. Caring opens up your heart. So caring has a risk. Being indifferent can be more safe. But you don't have an issue with that. When you saw the friend that was over there getting an uncomfortable position, you cared. You had the heart that led you first, even automatically. That was beautiful. And the second piece that you really brought forward as well is, indifference is maybe a feeling or looking at the world. But then when you aren't indifferent or when you care, then you have to make a decision to act. So some people actually care, but then they don't move the next step of action. Not only have you demonstrated that, but that's something, again, your family's into and our congregation's about that. The Torah is not just about thinking about it or looking at it. It's about how do we actually implement that into the world. You modeled that beautifully. We pray that I look forward to seeing all the things you're going to care about and you're going to lead us with and you're going to do something about it, because that is such a beautiful statement, a testament, something I know your family understands, that to care about something, whether it's a synagogue or a family or sister or climate change, it's not just about thinking about it, it's about doing something about it, and you are leading us to that promised land. Beautifully done, Suzanne. Shikoch. We rise together to offer our bat mitzvah a special blessing, place her talit over her head by her parents. One of the oldest blessings in Jewish tradition. You can place your hands on your head if you like, or something, and close your eyes. Susanna, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God always look upon you and grant you peace. And we say together, Amen. Mazel tov. You can give your bat mitzvah a soft kiss there, okay? She returns back to the table. At this time, we remain standing. We turn in our Sidurim to the prayer for peace. And we are honored to invite Carl's parents, the other wonderful set of grandparents, Dr. Mary and Charles Munt, here to the bima to where I am standing. We offer this prayer for peace on page 178. And as this prayer is offered, we of course keep in mind prayer for peace in all places in the world. Please come forward. Thank you, my friend. But obviously, we're holding in our hearts Afghanistan in particular, the suffering we see there, our country's unique connection with Afghanistan and all others in the world who are in suffering. We hold and pray for peace. Page 178.
A prayer for peace. May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
Then nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. Beautiful job. Beautiful job, Grandma. Mazel tov. Congratulations. Congratulations. Beautiful. Maybe back to your seat. We remain standing, and we now return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. We invite our bat mitzvah to lead us in Yahalelu on page 183.
Yehalelu et Shem Adonai,
Kini skav shema levado.
Hodor ha'eretz v'shamayim hayarek keren li'avo tila lechol hasidav livnei Yisrael am kerovo.
Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
Mizmor leDavid,
Havul Adonai Re'eli, Havul Adonai Kavod Vaz, Havul Adonai Kevod Shemo.
השתחוו לאדוני באדוני קודש, אדוני למים ולכבוד ירים, אדוני המים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וציריון, כמו בן רהמים. כל אדוני חוצב לעבודך, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכול אלילות, ויחשוף יערות ובחלום, כולו אומר כבוד, אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, את חיימי למחזיקים בה ותומכך מאושר
As the ark is closed, you may be seated, everyone. Shakah. Somebody take a seat. Just enjoy. Take a breath. Okay. All right. Get a break. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to those who are visiting. Shabbat Shalom who are visiting online. We're so glad to see everyone. So glad we could find a way to gather, even these complicated circumstances. So our custom at this time is to do a little Torah study. Some of you are old-timers and used to it. Some of you who are welcome, maybe your first time, welcome. What we do typically is we study a piece of Torah, and you will have a text in front of you, hopefully to share, hopefully for everyone, if not to share with the person next to you. And typically it's a conversation, it's a discussion. We invite each person, anyone, even if you're visiting or not Jewish, everyone is invited to study the Torah together. And we pass a microphone and allow people to hear it very clearly, but there's no passing microphones. In fact, I meant to say, there's almost like a no-kissing policy. There's a tradition to kiss the Torah. Some of you did kiss the Torah. You're not forbidding you, but we're in this complicated time. So what we're doing instead is Rabbi Jenny and I are going to lead a discussion or conversation between us. They say, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. We'll have 3 opinions right here, okay? And then we'll open up for some conversation with you. And I know that some of you are visiting, might be a little shy, but don't worry, it's okay. You can even disagree with the rabbis. It's very typical in the Jewish community. Don't worry about that. Respectfully disagree is totally okay. We welcome different opinions about this particular issue we're going to raise. And then as you respond, we will repeat it for those back home that don't have a microphone. We will do our best to paraphrase the answer to pass forward. Okay. So what we're going to focus on here, as our bat mitzvah said beautifully, she focused amazingly. She really honed in on one of the most profound commandments in the entire Torah portion. You shall not be indifferent. But as she noted, there's 70-something mitzvahs in the entire Torah portion. She had a whole lot to select from. So we picked another one. Little background on the one we picked. All right, the one we're going to talk about here is a very interesting tribe. Some of you may know this story. But according to the Torah, when we were enslaved in Egypt, this is like the key story of the Torah in the book of Exodus. And as we're wandering, making our way to the promised land, and it's taking a while, there is a story of a particular tribe. The name is Amalek. Amalek, some of you may be familiar with that term exactly. If you know prior Purim people are out there already. Yes, Amalek. This tribe, while we're going, according to the way the Torah describes it, you will see, in the back of our huge group of people, hundreds of thousands of people walking, there were some in the back who were slower, say some in the back who perhaps were injured or aged, couldn't move as quickly. And Amalek is considered very insidious and nefarious. They attacked our people from behind, knowing this was the place where the people were most delicate or fragile, dangerous, vulnerable in the back, and attacked us from there. So Amalek, according to the Torah, is not only a tribe that's a problem and our enemy because it's a problem, normal stuff, it's super problem because their history is they go after us in the weakest, most insidious ways. So the name Amalek, someone already did a hiss, because that tribe is connected to the evil guy Haman from Purim. Some say he's a descendant. And even sometimes the word Amalek is used today, sadly, with the Jewish people, when there is a group that comes forward to attack the Jewish people, even today, some leaders, some rabbis, not saying these ones, but some do say, oh, that is Amalek. So, for example, when the Nazis arose, some rabbis would say, that's the contemporary, for that time, version of Amalek. So Amalek's not just a people of the past. Amalek is the idea of this particularly insidious hatred that comes against any people, but really also our people. So that actually comes up in this Torah portion, and there's two specific phrases that seem to contradict each other. This is very Talmudic, and I want to talk with you and explore with you. We want to explore with you, what are we supposed to do with Amalek? Are we supposed to remember them, forget them, or something different? So, Rabbi Jay, will you read out here just what it says about this really painful tribe? What are we supposed to do with them?
Remember what Amalek did to you on your journey after you left Egypt. How, undeterred by fear of God, Amalek surprised you when you were famished and weary and cut down the stragglers in your rear. Therefore, when God grants you safety in the land that God is giving you, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget.
Okay, this is like a concoction of really complicated, does this make any sense? Wait a second. There's this tribe, it attacked us, we don't like them. Okay. But, so the Torah says, please, when you get into the land, blot out the memory of this tribe, Amalek. Do not forget. But it's written down in the Torah in perpetuity to make us remember.
Right.
So which one is it? Is it remembering? Is it blotting out what you're not remembering? The memory, what is that different than remembering? Then why does it have to add, do not forget? Do not forget what? Do not forget Amalek? Do not forget to blot out Amalek? There's a lot of conflicted information about forgetting and remembering here. Okay, so before we go further, anyone have thoughts here about what the Torah, is there some wisdom beneath the surface here? Don't worry, the rabbis will always have an interpretation, okay, it's coming, of what's going on with Amalek. What do you do with a person, and by the way, I don't move this beyond just the Jewish people. When there's someone in the world or some tribe or some incident which is an attack, do you remember, do you forget? Why would all that complex information come up? Any wisdom you might offer this behind this. Risa, what do you say over there? Well, speak loudly so we can hear, okay? Yes.
But I also know if you keep saying those names, you're perpetuating.
So you're basically living, so Risa just saying the tension. Her parents always told her, and this is very, very strong in the Jewish community, and actually directly from Elie Wiesel's type teaching, and the Holocaust Museum in D.C., etc., never forget, never forget. On the other hand, if you keep saying certain particular names or subject or parts of it, you're holding alive a memory maybe of part you want to erase from history on some level, or this is the tension between the two things. All right, Barry, what do you say?
Well, there's the concept of just how do you grow from an experience? How do you take it and move it to the next level?
to another step,
Yeah.
rather than just live in a world of hate or discomfort
Mm-hmm.
or bitterness that keeps us up. And I think that our bat mitzvah, Susanna, did
Yeah.
a wonderful job of showing how she took her experience,
Yeah.
which was very painful, because I know what it takes to stand up to friends.
Yes.
They don't like it. And they remember it.
Yes.
And so I think that she taught us with what she experienced
Yes.
and took it to another level. I think what this says, one thing you can do, we can look at is why is the Jewish community so involved in community?
Mm.
Community of the Jewish people and community where we live.
Yes.
And we've taken it to caring for the elderly, caring for the poor.
Yes.
Caring for those in need through community services that Jewish communities have had throughout the year, throughout wherever.
Centuries. Yes.
And so I think that's an example of how you take what you've had happen to you
Mm.
and move it to another level.
Yefeh. So I think what Barry's bringing here is the issue of when something terrible has occurred, you could let that eat up your heart. Like there's that famous line, I think Dr. King once said, I don't have time to hate because I don't have time to let my soul dry up, something like that. Like I don't have time to mess. It's like, so there's an anger, a pain that can sit with you and then ends up you're holding it. So this is maybe a transforming that into saying, what can I do positively in the world to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people, doesn't happen to us, et cetera. Kind of take our negative experience and turn it into a kind of long-lasting positive. If I can, beautiful, you fit. All right, Amy, what do you say?
So if the commandment, do not forget, is for the people when they get into the land, right? Don't forget you have to blot out.
Right.
Then, if they accomplish that goal, could they then forget about it, right? It's over. Now, as it happened, they didn't blot out Amalek, but
Correct.
even had they blotted out Amalek, if that's a symbol of evil in general, it arises in every generation.
You fit.
So we can't forget it. And I was just thinking that today with the vaccines, we have successfully blotted out certain diseases because of modern medicine. But it doesn't mean we can forget about it. If we forget about it, then when people are faced with another vaccine, they say,
great
oh,
example.
vaccines don't work. What do vaccines do? So we have to always remember
Yes.
even the evil.
Wow. Amy, I feel like what she's offering here essentially is that if we were somehow successful, according to Torah, to truly eliminate Amalek, which didn't happen, but let's just say if we were, then in a sense, though, it can lead you to false belief that it's over, when the truth is it's a returning problem that comes. So maybe the remembering, like the blotting out is yes, but don't forget you have to continuously, generation, time after time, have to go. And in fact, sometimes when you think you've won, if you get, kind of duped into thinking that it's over. She gave the idea of the vaccines. Like we kind of thought it was done, or think it's over, or even think there's no more variants, and then another one comes. You have to live in a world where you've won one round, but there's going to be more rounds coming. I think that's an excellent way. That's another very Talmudic way, very nice way of reading the text as well. All right, Deborah, what do you say?
So, I'm taking it sort of in another direction from what Amy said, but I think it's the same idea.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of part of what we're arguing about in terms of our own American history and other countries, and not just us. But people will say, well, slavery's over. So we'll just flat out never talk about it anymore, forget about it. But if we forget, leaving aside what we may say about systemic racism and all those kind of issues, if we forget about it, are we not in jeopardy of doing the same thing again in some other kind of way? So if we don't remember the evil in order to not repeat the evil, then aren't we just creating the same kind of environment
For history to repeat itself.
that created
Yeah.
evil in the first place? And I guess we could look at it in the issues of anti-Semitism, both in this country and in Europe, where we see parallels between what is happening now and happened 75 years ago. But if you study history, you can see parallels with what happened, 75 years before that, and so on and so forth. So, yes, we should blot it out in the sense that we shouldn't repeat it, but if we don't, or even to say it's over, at least the space that it's over, but if we don't remember that happened, then what happens when circumstances present themselves again?
Wow. Yes, you want to? Let me do it again. Okay, amazing, Deborah. Our educators are rocking the house here. All right, yeah. So look, she gave the example of American slavery or any part that happened in American history, but really it's any country or any entity. There's desire to blot out that which is evil, wrong, embarrassing, shameful, should be gone, don't want to. At the same time, if you do too good a job of that, in a sense, if you blind yourself on, then you're essentially liable to repeat the situation. And these are cyclical, sadly, the truth of the matter. So therefore, it's this kind of it's a paradox. You want to eliminate, but you don't actually want to fully eliminate the memory. You somehow want to hold on to a piece of it enough that to help inspire you to not do it again into the future. So this mitzvah may sound unclear on one level, but another level, it's kind of actually being smart. It's actually saying, look, hold both at the same time. Don't completely erase. It's impossible maybe to completely erase.
Noah.
All right. Oh, we got fired up. Well, let me
Noah.
but I feel,
Okay.
all right, but first you get the family first.
Sure.
Family. Is this in the Munt family here over here? Yes, okay, my friend. Yes.
I'm struck the Amalek attacked the vulnerable
Yes.
at the end of the Exodus. What about the responsibility of the strong and able to go back and protect their vulnerable people? I mean, this was a tragedy because the Amalek attacked the vulnerable. It's also a tragedy because the strong in the community didn't protect their.
I'm sending you to rabbinical school. That's right. I love that. In fact, I gave that sermon in my seminary. That was a fantastic idea. I'm glad I thought of it too. Great minds, okay? That was awesome because that is another whole read on this thing. That's beautiful.
Repeat what you said.
Okay, sorry, I got fired up. So look, it says who did Amalek attack? The stragglers in the rear. Hold up. Let's take a moment here. How come the stragglers were in the rear? Who led the stragglers? Did Amalek? No. Our people. Let there be stragglers in the rear. And now, we could go into details. We were fleeing, and it's like, but no. Perhaps the strong of society allowed, encouraged systemically, right, to there be stragglers to allow them to be vulnerable. What was our responsibility to even leave them open to that situation? So perhaps the do not forget, I'm now taking the sermon a little further, is do not forget, Jewish people, that you let people in the back. So blot out Amalek refers to getting rid of this an external enemy, but do not forget means don't forget that you let them be vulnerable to the external enemy. I think it's a fantastic idea. We're going to talk about this later for my high holiday sermon. I love that idea. That is brilliant. Okay, Rabbi Jay, who do you want to call on now? Noah Gardner. Okay, our mensch. What's up? This kid's already a rabbi. Yes! Right. In fact, this is exactly what we're going to, the rabbi that we're going to look at the commentary is exactly what Noah's talking about. So Noah's going another direction. Okay? He says, wait a second. Although contrary to the Jewish history book that says, we're the ever-dying people, there's actually a book called The Ever-Dying People. Our people have survived and thrived over the generations. However, it is true. When we come to our sad holidays, it's not just the Shoah. I mean, the Holocaust is, obviously sui generis in its horrific destruction. But sadly, we've had other events in our history. Many, many other events. Our daughter recently is reading a book about Jewish history, and she's like, Ava, I didn't realize we're kicked out of so many European countries, like one after the other. What happened? I said, sweetie, it's the case. That's not our entire history, but it's true. If you really get into it, we have a long history of it. So how do we balance going back and understanding our suffering moments without it becoming like so sad or overwhelming or
central?
What's that?
Or central.
Or even so central. And this is where we're going to dovetail into what the Rabbi Milgram says here. It becomes so central that it's the only story we tell about Judaism is that they're out to get us, or it becomes like the primary story, where that's not fair. That's not the entirety of our story. But it can become overwhelming because it's true, because it did happen. All right, I just want to make sure we go around. Just go Stu over here, and then Rick, yeah. I saw a picture, yeah.
through, and you're going through these art galleries, and you go into the site, you hear the hymnal, the hymn when the light of mine goes there, because you always have to get out of these galleries to get some optimism, to see that that there's something that can go forward, that you're not just thinking about what horrible things happen, but that there's actually you look in the light portion in the circle in the center, and you see the folks who came through, came through Freedom Summer, who came down, the people who gave their lives for freedom, and you really start thinking, well, what can you do differently? As you go out of the entire portion of the museum, at the end, there's an area where you can actually put your, you take a picture, you write down, what are you going to do now that you feel so challenged?
Wow.
What are you going to do differently? I thought that was such a great idea to do it this way.
Wow.
And I think this gets to the point here that you can think about all the bad stuff that happened. It goes in Jewish history. We've had plenty of it.
Right.
But that's not the sum of us.
Right.
That's not the sum of us.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. So Stu's talking about, and Stu spent, some of you know he's a physician, but he spent time in his childhood, your early days in Mississippi. And he's telling us he went back to a museum, a recent museum opened in Mississippi, and I was following Stu's Facebook and saw where it obviously talks about the horrors, and he says it doesn't sugarcoat it, but at the end it gives some kind of inspiration, a kind of idea that this is an incredibly important, powerful story. It must be remembered. It's being dedicated in a museum. At the same time, what are we going to do moving forward? How are we going to go forward and not let this be the entire story of our country, but also about how we're trying to fix it, how we're trying to do better. And at the end, it sounds like you make a commitment to do something yourself to take this history and let that propel us to do better in the future, something like that. And it's beautiful. So it's a combination of holding the history, but not letting the history overwhelm you so you're paralyzed. It lets you kind of pushes you to go. All right, Rick, what do you say?
I think some of what we're talking about, what we hold on to and what we let go of, has to do with our spiritual health. We hold on to the memory of the injustice and the violence, lest it happen again. If we let go of the pain, the definition of victim, that interferes with who we are and our movement.
Which is some resistance.
To being spiritual, to being mentally healthy.
Beautiful,
Rick.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So Rick is bringing in our own spirituality as a tool and orientation for how we discern what we want to remember, because it is the truth of our experience and we need to, it's part of who we are, but also letting go of some of the pain which can lead to suffering and can lead to our own re-victimization, and some of how we figure out and tease that apart, what we choose to remember, what we choose to forget, comes from our spirituality.
All right, a couple less comes. We're going to wrap up here. Bob Mitzvah, of course, gets a chance. Bob Mitzvah, yes.
I would like to point out that we're talking about the violence, but we're not talking about the victims who lost their lives because of the violence. When Amalek killed the stragglers, it was our fault, but it was also a cause. It was a cause of our of like us not paying attention, and they took advantage of us. I would like
Yes.
to point out that we must remember the victims who lost their lives, but we mustn't forget the pain that we endure and the pain that others have caused, so we can learn from our mistakes.
Wow.
Beautiful. So
Wow,
Susie's
Suzanne,
reminding
amazing.
us that it's very easy to forget the victims,
Right.
the people who actually suffered, and to sort of focus instead on the aggressor or on the externals. And I actually remember this when my older kids were very little, and I was taking a workshop at Project Enlightenment, and they said that, when your child gets hurt by another child, the natural reaction is often to pay all the attention to the aggressor child, and that then one of the most powerful healing things that we can do is go first to the one who's been hurt.
It's a beautiful point, Susie. All right, please, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes.
Yes, you.
I found it interesting to go back to the quote, that the first word in the English translation and the last sentence tell us to remember. That's the beginning. Start out. Remember this. Do not forget this.
Right.
And I think if you translate or think of blotting out as you spilled ink and you have to not let it make a huge mess, blot it out. It doesn't say sand it out. Don't wallow.
Wow.
If you read blot out,
Cool.
not wallow, then it has one incorrect
Wow. So this is a really cool comment about the idea of what it means to blot out. Like, I've just caught on the image, right? It's a good point. First of all, the Torah is written, that some of you know, with an old-fashioned feather and ink. Reed, exactly. So it's like the idea of like blotting is like about taking the ink and like spilling it over and like really, but at the same time, I'm now dovetailing a little bit, but then it's not really gone. It's actually, you see the spot. But you don't, so that's
you don't cut it out.
Right. I think that's a really profound point. So basically, you could have excised it, right? You could have done like a delete button. There's no delete button. It's still there, but it's been damaged, it's been put down, it's been clearly marked as covered over, right. So there's a tension in that dynamic. It's a very profound point about the issue of what it means to blot out specifically. Those are other ways to get rid of it. All right. Last thing. Okay, Leslie, Vakasha. Yeah.
They've done studies about these sort of large generational traumas, right? These are traumas. So we've been refugees as Jews, having left, like it was voluntary. Been forced to leave many countries and many situations, right? And every generation, someone comes around and tries to kill us. That's history, right? But it's also happening to, we just passed the anniversary of the very first African people brought here to be slaves, right? And you've got Afghanistan going through what they're going through right now, and there are refugees there. I mean, there are refugees all around the world, all the time, right? These large generational traumas, they've done studies and say that it changes our DNA.
Yes.
And then we pass that to our children, right? So we literally cannot forget it because we are passing it to the next generation. And I think in a way also understand your own identity. Understand where you come from. Because you need to know who you are. You can't live in that trauma. You need to understand it and understand how to move forward from that.
Yeah, so Leslie's talking about actually there's a whole field now of epigenetics, of understanding that when there is large generational trauma, not only the Jewish people, but across human experience, that actually changes our genes, and then how that trauma is passed on not only through storytelling, but actually through our biology, and the importance of knowing the truth, that we are changed by that. That is a part of not only our identity on the inside, but our own physical lived experience in our bodies.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
So let's go to this final text
we might
here.
just read that opening part of the story.
Sure.
So take a look at the bottom text. This is a sermon by Rabbi Shiro Mogrom, who's actually a teacher of ours and was a mentor of mine when I was in rabbinical school, actually. It was a wonderful sermon. And we won't read the whole thing out, but read the opening part of the story, I think tells the whole sermon, basically.
On a Yom Kippur morning many years ago, Rabbi Harold Schulweis asked his congregation if they could name members of Hitler's SS.
Which was like a leading militia in the Nazi Germany.
And the names came pouring out: Himmler, Eichmann, Göring. And then Rabbi Schulweis asked the community to name the people who tried to save Anne Frank and her family. Silence. Blot out the memory of Amalek, of all those who have tried to destroy us. But, he asked, whose names have we blotted out, and whose names have we remembered? In focusing on our suffering, we have chosen to see ourselves as victims, to see in others the potential hater. For so many of us, being Jewish is bound up in being vulnerable. In the most profound and wonderful ways, we have been nurtured on the biblical teaching, you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the feelings of the stranger, having yourselves been slaves in the land of Egypt. We remember our suffering so that we will feel with those who suffer. We remember our suffering so that we will nurture the courage to speak out against injustice. We remember our pain.
So this is when she goes on here to say basically what Leslie said, but if we do this so much that all we're focusing is on the negative, it actually enters into who we are in a way that's not constructive. So do you have a thought you want to offer this, Rabbi Jay?
I wanted to conclude by saying, there have been so many powerful opinions here offered that really bring to light that remembering and forgetting can exist as integrated parallel processes. And what it is to be spiritual, to be fully human, is to be able to discern and figure out what are the parts that we want to remember so that we have open, sensitive, caring hearts that are dedicated towards justice and towards the repair of the world? And what are the parts of our experience or the experience of our people that if we remember and only remember that, we become stuck, we become embittered, we become paralyzed or simply traumatized and are unable to move forward in healthy ways. And those processes are ongoing in every moment, in every year, in every generation. And the real wisdom comes in figuring out what we want to remember and what we want to forget.
And I just want to dovetail on that and say I think it's profound when she gives this profound teaching of the story of Rabbi Schulweis, who, like, people can remember, sadly, these horrible names from the SS, but can't remember Anne Frank's basic story. It's not because Anne Frank is one of those popular, famous books, and it's not like people don't have it. I think it's the most public schools have to read it. It's like, but it's first of all, it can be what is traumatizing can stick harder. It's true. But the point is, it's about proportionality, right? It's not saying our history is, oh, let's just, it was bad at times, let's move forward. No, it's like, let's really embrace the death of our history or of the museum that Stu mentioned, et cetera, of our own. But let's also put in proportion with the other potentials for us into the future, in a way of kind of holding both of these things as we go towards the future. Too much in one way or the other, out of balance, that probably is the problem. And that's what she's touching on here. And that's what it means here. Both to remember and to forget means to kind of find that right balance between the two, which is not easy to do, not easy for a country to do, not for a state, etc. But that's the journey ultimately towards the promised land, is to hold your history of trauma, but not let it define you only.
And as we move towards Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur,
Exactly.
I think we can apply some of this learning as we review the past year. And all of us are working on ourselves, really figuring out, what are the parts of this past year that we want to remember, that are important to remember, because they'll become part of, God willing, a better, more whole, more healthy new year. And what are the parts that we really want to consciously release and let go because they're going to hold us back?
Amen.
So wishing everyone just continued wisdom as we
Move
delineate
forward.
between the two.
Amen. Yishar koach. Kol hakavod. Everyone, beautiful conversation. You can take your texts and pass them into the middle. Some of our mentions, and we'll collect them. We now invite our bat mitzvah back up onto the bima. She's going to help us bring us home as we conclude our service. She's going to turn now to page 184 in your prayer books, in your Seder reading. We rise together for Chatzi Kaddish, 184.
Okay. Yitzkada, v'yitzkada Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
V'yamad yivra kirtei, v'yamlik malchutei.
B'chayechon v'yom echon, u'chaylecho b'et Yisrael. V'gala, u'bizman kariv imeru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba v'vorach. Le'olam olam ve'amaya yitbarach.
Yitzbarach, v'yishavah, v'yitba'ar, v'yitromam mitnaseh, v'yitzhazar, v'yitzaleh, v'yitzhalal, shmei nekudasha.
B'richu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata.
Tushbechata lenechem atah, damiran be'alma v'imeru. Everybody face the ark towards Jerusalem. We begin together the first few pages of the Amidah together. Pages 185 through 187, we pray together as a congregation. The rest is done silently.
Adonai sifatain tifta ufi agi tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanura, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו ויהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד אתה, מחכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רב, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מחמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן אתה לך חיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
בשמו
לחיי המתים.
אמן. ריצך ונקדישך אלוהי עזרי קודש, המקדישים הקודש, כך כתוב על יד אביך, קרא זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך הארץ כבודו. מעלה מעלה עולם כבודו, כבודו מעלה מעלה עולם כבודו, כבודו מעלה מעלה עולם, ושרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איה מקום כבודו, ושרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איה מקום כבודו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, הוא יבן ברחמים ויעונם, המייחדים שמו ערב הבוקר, אבוא יום תמיד, המהיר יבא, שמע אומרי, שמע ישראל, אדוני אינו אדוני אחד, אלוהינו אבינו ומלכנו מושיענו ישמיענו ורחמם שני כל חיילי אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ודברי עושך כתוב לאמור, אם לא נגלה יציאות לדור הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גם לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מבין עלי ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני.
בשמו
האל הקדוש.
Continue with silent prayer.
Say shalom bimrama,
ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו Amen. Page 203. Amen. Amen. Yeshmea v'mevarach le'olam v'mehavaya yibah.
Yibrach v'yishtabah v'yitbar v'yitrom v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalash mene kudusha.
Brihu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata v'shbechata v'nechemata damiran ve'amam imeru.
Amen.
Titkaba saloton u'utachon d'chol Yisrael kadam avachon dim yishmaim imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru.
Amen.
Aseh shalom yimama hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael tevel ve'imeru.
Amen. 204, Ein Kelohenu.
Ein Kelohenu,
Ein Adonenu, Ein Gemalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Adonenu, Mi Gemalkeinu, Mi Kamoshienu, Norel Eloheinu, Norel Adonenu, Norel Emalkeinu, Norel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch
Adonenu,
Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu,
Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu
Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu,
Atahu Shiktiru,
Please rise.
Avotenu,
Levanecha ektor et hasamim aleinu leshaveh l'Adon hako, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ולא עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לבני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. כן נקבל לך ונתקן.
כך כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר אדוני לך כל העד היום ההוא, היום ההוא.
כי אדוני
אחד ושמו We turn to page 207. Invite those in mourning or driving a yard site this Shabbat Ki Tetzeh to rise for Kadisha till mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kirute v'amlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kodisha
Brichu.
Leila minko berchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran v'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru
Amen.
May be seated on Shabbat Shalom. This time we invite our president to come forward and offer special gifts and announcements. For special first gifts for our bat mitzvah. Yeah,
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Susie, this is the time where we get to offer you gifts. But I first want to say thank you for the gifts that you gave us today. First, you gave us the gift of a very thoughtful, poised, and well-delivered Devar Torah. You've also given the gift of giving us an insight into your strong character and your obvious bravery and hard work. And it really showed in your performance today, and I'm assuming in your everyday life. I think you've shown us what it means not to be indifferent and to care about others and other things. Your parents certainly have done that as well. They have been very supportive of the synagogue. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with and getting to know your parents, especially your father, and I know that they must be extremely proud, as we all are very proud of you, and look very forward to what your future holds. And we expect big things. So there are gifts for you. I'm not going to parse them out now, but they are here. And we have a mezuzah and a kosher parchment from our sisterhood and men's club. We have a Tanakh and a certificate of bat mitzvah from the Beth Meyer Board of Trustees. We have a Kiddush cup and candlesticks from this year's B'nai Mitzvah class. And as you bring Shabbat into your home, you will remember your whole class in this special time in your life, as challenging as these times have been. As I'm supposed to say, you stand here as an adult member of our synagogue. Really, I think the only institution where a 13-year-old is considered an adult. But as I said, we're excited to watch you continue on your Jewish journey as a member of the Beth Meyer family, and Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov. Beautiful job. Beautiful job. Keith, you want to do announcements too? Is that right? You can do it here. It's fine. Yes, then you can be seated, Susanna. Take a seat. Exactly.
So I'm also here to give announcements, if I can find them. Let's see. Okay. So we've got March Through Jewish History, a class taught by Amy Rips on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Each class stands alone, so you can join at any time. Please register online for a link. We've got our summer schmooze tomorrow from 9:30 to 1 p.m. Love to see everybody out there. Welcome back Cobb Shab, Friday, August the 27th at 6:30 p.m. The Sisterhood membership brunch has some changes. New info Sunday, August 29th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. via Zoom. Let's see, the paid-up Sisterhood members, please pick up your gift bags, courtesy of the Beth Meyer Sisterhood, in the shul parking lot on Wednesday, August 25th, and Thursday, August 26th, from 4 to 6:30 p.m., as well as Friday, August 27th, from 10 to 12:30 p.m. The Judaica shop will be open Fridays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. beginning August 20th. Child care is provided on Shabbat mornings for children aged 2 years through second grade beginning at 9:30 a.m. We offer a supervised play space for children as well as Shabbat stories and songs. The space is located on the lower level of the main building at the far end of the hall. And last but not least, thank you and Mazel Tov to the Munt family for sponsoring our Kiddush today in honor of Susanna becoming a bat mitzvah. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see everyone.
Awesome. Shabbat Shalom. You should call. Great job, Keith. Awesome. To reminder, we have minion tomorrow morning at 9 and Wednesday at 7. So our custom also is to, aside from our wonderful guests we have here, that are here, of course, especially for the bat mitzvah, if there's anyone here who is visiting for the first time, who is maybe a local person who is exploring, they call it shul shopping, checking out different synagogues, we like to embarrass you, make you stand up and introduce yourself. So if anyone here who is a local person, not just a guest of the family, of course, but local who's here visiting for the first time or new-ish, anyone here? Yes, tell us, who are you, my friend? We're the Cowan family. What's the name again? Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. Cowan, got it. Awesome. Is that you guys? I see 4 of you. 5. Wow, Gewalt. Welcome. Are you guys new to the area? New to this Raleigh? Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
Great.
Welcome. Oh, okay, awesome. That's good too. Local, guys, glad to have you. Welcome, welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Awesome, fantastic. Shabbat Shalom. Anybody else we're missing here? Okay, I see Ellen Adelman has an announcement. Ellen, please. And Ellen, we are so grateful to you for your leadership with ushering. So just make sure everyone here is ushering, helping with the holidays. We recognize it's more complicated than other times. If you can help Ellen Adelman in the office, contact the office as well for helping for ushering during the holidays too. Kath? Yeah, Shabbat as well, of course, exactly. Kathy, religious school director, and everything else.
Nothing to do with religious school, it's all about
Food.
food. To make sure that we're all aware that Kiddush has now moved back to the social hall.
Uh-huh.
So into the social hall for the buffet.
Okay. Okay, so when we conclude our service in just a moment, we're going to go to the social hall, which was the place that we typically had our lunches and meals like this. So we're going to get our food there, then we go outside. Is that what you're saying, Kathy? Okay, go out to the court. Maybe someone there kind of directing traffic? Okay, everyone do as safely as possible, which we understand. Okay. Anything else I'm missing? Yes, please. I see. Awesome. Welcome. Glad to have you guys here. Welcome. Welcome so much. So I'm going to say one last comment before we're going to wrap up, bring our bat mitzvah back for Adon Olam. So, the Munt family is really close to our hearts for a lot of reasons. They are both very busy professionals and have a lot going on. Jen is on our ritual committee headed by Rick King the past couple of years. We're grateful for that. And Carl serves on every level of everything at Beth Meyer. But I want to say a particular moment here to say how grateful to Carl for the work he's done to help raise a Jewish family together with Jen. It really is a tremendous offering. We could not thank you enough for all the work you put in. But Jen, also, you're not chopped liver, okay? Also great work you've done too, all right? But we're really grateful to Carl very, very much. All right, with that, we let our Rabbi Munt come on up. No, not pushing her yet, but someday, okay? Rabbi Munt is going to conclude our service here with a closing song, one of our most famous, page 211, Adon Olam.
Okay. Adon Olam,
Asher malav eterem go yetzir nira li'enasa v'resoko azar melech shemo nikra v'yare lo takon levado yivlok nora el haya ve'u ove ve'u yeh v'tivara ve'u echad ein sheni lehamshir lo lehagbira ve'lireshi ve'litachlit ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra ve'u eli echai gorali ve'tzorchev li v'yetzahara ve'u nisi umanos li ve'nat gosi. Please rise. V'yado hafkiruchi v'yetishan v'yayira v'imruchi geviyati
Adonai li v'lo ira.
Okay. Where is it? Doesn't say. Okay, Barach Adonai, Yom HaShavuot V'Kadshehu Savri. Baruch. Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech
haolam.
haolam.
Barei. Even the rabbi messed up. Okay, now you take a sip. Can I take a sip?
Lost right now.
It's okay. Ah, you're at the end. You made it, sister. All right. Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom. Social for food. Shabbat Shalom. Sorry about that. I messed up.